Hello everyone and welcome back to the Sky Island. I just cooked up a dirt acorn for the achievement Eating Dirt, and we are doing good. Today we are going to get the crops from this game, which means that we're going to need a lot of dirt and a market. Since we already have the bone meal trees, we're also going to need to chop down a lot of those. So we're going to start by just stripping some of the leaves from these trees so this middle one can grow. Come on, grow, grow, grow. Yeah, I don't like to harvest them when there's one that hasn't grown. It's makes things uneven. Alright, there we go, there we go. Alright, now it's time to harvest. Yeah, we're gonna need lots of dirt for this, and I think instead of chopping down trees to get all of the dirt, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get some dirt and then use the leaves in mud to get the rest, and this will allow me to kind of have an exponential dirt situation going on, which will be great for my plants. Alright, I'm going to want to expand out this way for the plants, so I'm going to take these down and move them over there. Alright. Yeah, we got everything. We're good. Alright, saplings. Yeah. So there's a bunch of seeds in this game, but that are new from mod packs, but I think there's also some that you can't get from grass and you have to get from the market. I think those are grape, chili pepper, and one tomato, but there's also alternative versions of tomatoes and peppers, and we're gonna grab both of them. I think everything else can be gotten from the grass. Yeah, so I just expanded out this way, built myself a little garden. Pretty sure it's the wrong size. I didn't do the math very carefully. Honestly, this setup is more or less temporary. I'm going to build a different, much nicer looking island later, and probably a little bit either higher up or lower down. Just for ease of moving. It'll probably be later. Alright, we also need some... Yeah, so here we are. We're grabbing ourselves some leaves in order to make grass from our watered leaves and dirt. Okay, we're gonna take as many leaves as we can, just because that's just how it works. We're also going to want an infinite water source, but that shouldn't be too hard to get. We just need to put saplings in the crushing basin for at least, only... And then we can use the infinite water base. Yeah, so I'm gonna build that infinite water source over here. I'm gonna build it out of full blocks because I don't like the way that water interacts with slabs. I don't like the way that it looks. And later this is also going to double as a fishing pond. Yeah, a fishing pond and an infinite water source. I think later I'm also going to build a proper fishing pond. Alright, and now we do that, and now we've lit it up, and we're getting the water for it. Wonderful. Now we grab our buckets. Looks like I did get an extra one. Yeah, 3. 3, that's it, the right number. Alright, and now we're just going to fill these buckets up repeatedly, get the mud, and then use the leaves to turn. And we're just going to do that for quite a while because we need a lot of dirt. Alright, and in here, yeah. The important thing about crops is that it's going to give us a source of food that isn't the acorns, and it's going to unlock a lot of stuff. I think there's more cooking you can do in this mod pack, and I'd like to investigate that because I love cooking, honestly. I love like cooking mods and stuff. Alright, here we are, just filling in another little crop section. Yeah, we're doing great over here. This happens occasionally, yeah. We're gonna need a lot of torches, otherwise this is going to become a little bit of a trap. Yeah, we're gonna put one here. There we go. Actually, no. I'm gonna put a full block there. There we go. And we need more dirt. More dirt is always needed. And more bone meal. So much bone meal. Yeah. It's great, we're expanding the island. I cannot wait until hopping bonsais, but getting iron would take all day, and I'd like to do this first. Alright, now it's time to harvest some grass. I've bone mealed some grass already, but before I start breaking it for seeds, I'm going to grab 32 pieces that I'm going to dip in yellow water to turn into specifically a modded grass, I think from Rustic, that gives you different seeds, such as onions. But this regular grass will give us most of the seeds we need. See, we already have pumpkin, wheat, and beetroot. Yeah, beetroots are going to be important because they're a trade good. A lot of the seeds and other things in the market, they require beetroots to buy. So, beets are going to be super important. Yeah. Initially, I was planning to make its own, section for each crop, but I don't think I'm going to do that. I think that will be too much. I think I'll just do that when I build the island. Alright, time to dye this grass yellow. Yellow grass, there we go. And time to grab some more, and it goes. There we go, like that. Yes, and just one more bucket, like so, and we'll just leave them filled up. There we go, there we go. Now it's time to break this grass to get onions and other things. There's some overlap, but I like to break a decent amount of both in order to get the seeds. Just got cucumbers. Alright, there's that, and now it's time to plant them. Yay, planting! Yeah, I think the first part of the island I'm going to do is like a sort of giant field situation. Because you always need more crops, just always, and it looks nice. Alright, and here's where we'll put the water source. We're gonna take our bucket and our slabs, and we go down, and slab, 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 slab. We go back up, and finally a slab right there. There, now when we want to build under the island, we don't have to deal with the floating water. And now, oh, don't eat the onions, plant the onions. Alright, there we go, a nice little field. I'm planting them in quarters because I don't have the time or energy right now to make a separate plot for each crop. Besides, the island remodel is up and coming. But look at all this. Look how glorious it is. Look at the glorious field of wheat. Lovely. Alright, and now we're grabbing some cotton because we need red wool to craft the market. So we have an adequate amount of string now. This should be good. We can come back and deal with all this later. I have F7 turned on, which is why there are yellow X's. And that just shows me where mobs can spawn. And they can spawn right here, right on these dirt blocks right now, but I don't think that's too much of a problem. I'm going to be over here. Alright, and we go over to the market, and we need planks. Alright, here we are. Market. Yes. Wonderful. Alright, we're gonna place that right here. But we have to give it some space behind it in order for the villager to have a place to stand, so he doesn't fall into the void. Alright, and now we're planting our pumpkin patch. This middle strip is going to be water, and we're going to have melons on one side and pumpkins on the other. And it's going to look so cute. At least until I tear it down in favor of a larger model. Yeah. It looks nice. It looks nice, but I don't want my base to turn into some kind of giant labyrinth. So I'm going to redesign it with better pathways. Alright, and it's a mob spawner, so we're just gonna go in with torches. Torches for you. Torches here. And here, and everywhere. And now nothing can spawn in the pumpkin patch. Alright, lovely. Yeah, as time goes on, these will naturally fill out as the crops grow, so yeah. There we go. Alright, and now we're planting this last field. Now for these crops, you need these stakes, and these are the ones from Rustic that you can only get from the market. And these are the tomatoes and the chili peppers, not to be confused with the tomatoes and the peppers, which don't need these to grow. Alright, there we go. We have some tomatoes and some peppers, and we're going to plant the tomatoes and the peppers in these other corners. Wonderful. And now we've planted our strawberries, lettuce, cucumbers, and there's another one here. Grapes. That's great, grapes. Now the grapes won't grow in this setup, but I will not realize that for a little bit. Anyway, thank you for watching today. Remember to like and subscribe to the video to see more videos from me, and I will see you next time.